Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here to review Sleeping with the Enemy, or in my rendition of a movie title, When Were We Ever Enemies? It was while you were sleeping. If you are ever to go on and see that Sandra Bullock film, where of course we get the line of like, I think he's leaning. Yeah, like at some point I should actually go on and review that film because I've talked about it so much. And eventually stuff like that, and like You've Got Mail is probably something that I kind of trickled throughout a number of reviews. But it's just me trying to make light heart out of something that is to be very more difficult and more uh, like of a haunting story that is to really just need me to just be like, man, like, yeah, a movie like this is hard, but like the thing that I can get out of it is seeing a strong female character and really just seeing that this is a movie that feels more of like an escape room kind of movie, or like a race against time kind of thing. Who's gonna catch who, and how are these people going to discover these things? And like I can get more enjoyment out of that more so than what happens in the very early stages of this movie, and I can much more enjoy the second half of it, where we have Sarah, who ends up with Ben, who is to be the much more perfect person for her, and eventually, what leads to, by the tail end of the film, is to still be that it's so hard for Laura to escape her past that she has to face it. It's kind of like the movie House in a way, the horror movie House, where the guy has to go on and he has to face up against his past. He has to face up against what he had did in Vietnam, and this house is to kind of bring it out of him. But so, Sleeping with the Enemy goes on. It reminds me of films so early in this YouTube reviewing channel. Stuff like Berlin Syndrome, which a lot of people probably won't get why I probably could enjoy a movie like that. And it's all about the hook. It's not about like how the story really plays out. And eventually you may need to watch the review to really understand why I am to enjoy that kind of film, because people may not get it. As well as also movies like I've kind of re-reviewed recently, like Deadly Virtues, which is kind of like uh, a strong female character building movie that I've gone on and of course said a number of other things during that review that I probably don't want to repeat here. You know what I mean? Not stating to try to clickbait people into other reviews. I don't care. I'm just saying that like this is how I feel about this film. I'm sure there is a plethora of other kind of films that are just like this movie, because reasonably, uh, this idea isn't exactly like reinventing any kind of wheel, but uh, let me know in the comments below a number of other films that are probably somewhat similar to this. Maybe I have seen it, maybe I haven't seen it, and maybe there might be a reason for me to go on and review them, depending on what they actually are, or if I remember what they are. But anyways, because I'm sure there's a lot of them that are just like this, and I just mentioned a whole two of them, just because logically, I feel like that is the good enough example. But anyways, let me know in the comments below. So, within this film, I really say the grading of this film is really just because this is a escape of a character that, like, really towards the end of the film, where she makes that phone call, I am like, heck yeah, like I am cheering freaking Laura slash Sarah through this entire film. I'm like, yeah, don't let her go on and be uh, a person who is to go on and not be happy by the end of this tale. Like, don't go on and give me nothing more than just a good ending for this movie, because that's what really uh, Sarah slash Laura deserves. So, with that said, and also, like, I would rather want to call Lara or Laura Sarah in this entire film, because that's the stronger character. That's the happier character. But of course, I have to go on and transition into two different things. Also, it's kind of really awesome how Laura was to figure out some ways behind Martin's back to do all the things that she needed to do to figure out ways to escape him. And like, that was just like, bravo, nice chess move, Laura. Check freaking mate. How she really thought this through, and really, it wasn't just something that she was just like winging. No, she put effort and thought into this, and that's what makes this movie so much better. We come to find out like how she had gone on and just been playing this all goddamn along, and it's like, all right, cool, this is great. So, with that said, this movie really, just because of this strong female character and the way that this movie eventually goes on to play out instead of the early stages of it, this movie is really enjoyable. I really am to go on and say that this movie is great. There is an annoyance of me that looks at Martin and is just like, God, this guy is such a neat freak and so freaking picky. But that helps us understand by the end of the film, really just Sarah's horror by the end of it. And that makes us better understand why Laura needed to become Sarah and escape. My apologies for kind of mixing up the names here. I always tend to say that I'm not good with names, but I'm better with faces. So, with that said, yeah, I did not go on and do my due diligence to see if this movie is available on easy apps or whatever, like a Tubi, TUBI, or some other app like that, or an Amazon or whatever. Because I normally go through two different apps freaking anyways, and I usually end up having a tablet, or for probably a lot of people, probably a lot easier if they had an iPad. So that way they can get through a Google Play Store and be able to go on and watch this movie as well as a number of others for absolutely free. Fortunately for you, you can go on to two different apps. One is to be called Zelifonic, Zelivonic, and watch this movie for absolutely free. Or you can also go onto an app called Moopzy, Moopzzi, and watch this movie justifiably for absolutely free. So, because logically, you may go on and have certain feelings about this movie, you may hate this film, you may eventually go on to enjoy it, or also, I can say that this movie is a very long-winded piece. Eventually, when Sarah goes on and escapes Martin, there is a lot of house cleaning. There is a lot of her playing around in the theater. There is a long stretch of like, okay, like Martin now has figured it out, what is going on, and he is to try to put the pieces of the puzzle together of how he can track this whole thing down, trying to be very cryptic and try to be very vague. But if you've probably seen this film in the past and you're just kind of rewatching this because of just like, yeah, like he enjoyed this movie also, and I'm like, okay, all right, cool. Or maybe you have never heard of this piece before in your life, and you're like, well, what is this about? What weird, creepy movies are you gonna have me coming to this time? Yeah, it probably is to a number of people, but I enjoy this movie for its second half. So, with that said, let's go into full on spoilers about this movie so I can break it all down to tell you what is to all be happening. So, with that said, I'm going to, of course, pause this video here, and because it is about that time again, to, of course, go into spoiler time. Spoiler time, it's about that time to spoil this movie. Let me know in the comments below. Whatever. Comment anything that you'd like to. If you've liked this movie, if you hated this film, more than likely, if you had a parent or person who had turned you on to this movie and you enjoyed it or liked it or whatever, maybe it is one of your favorite films or maybe your least favorite film, whatever. However you want to go on and say anything in the comment section, because fortunately for me, it is to be, of course, pretty fairly empty for a lot of times. So if you want to comment, you can go ahead and do so. But regardless, your view is what really matters at the end of the day. So it's time to say, let's pause this video here so I can get out my notes and my cast list and be able to insist how I know what goes on with it in this film. So let's pause here. Let's whip this out. It's interesting also to find out that this movie is based off of a novel. I'm like, all right, cool. Like that is kind of interesting. And then also, when really thinking about movies currently to this day, like that isn't much of a surprise to me for how often novels are to be made into films. But regardless, good for Nancy Price, anyways. Good for her. So I am to also state that it's been like fairly surprising to consistently see a lot of videos just keep doing well. I don't know how they're consistently doing what they're doing, but I really do appreciate it. And it's great to just kind of feel that what I was doing was not wasted for once, even though I am to go on and still probably feel negative in ways, just because I am to probably just always be effing depressed. So, but I can just be happy and relieved now that I'm like, okay, so like, at least some of my hard work didn't go unnoticed. So that's great. So thank you for going on and being a part of that. So with that said, in the very beginning of this film, we have Laura that is to be on the beach trying to collect shells, as she is to go on and probably try and find oysters or something as a maybe aphrodisiac or whatever within these seashells. So Martin is to make his way to Laura to state that he has to go on and make his way into the office forcibly. And he has to say, well, yeah, like we're even on vacation and we also have to go to this stupid party later on. And like, man. So Martin is also just kind of upset that it seems that Laura is doing all this hard work to get all these shells together for them to go on and do something with them, for this to all be but a loss. And Laura's like, oh no, like this is fine, like it's okay. And so Laura goes on and kisses and hugs Martin, and then she realizes, oh, like I guess I have messed up your suit. And Martin is to just be like, well, okay, like I do have time to change. So he goes on and like pushes his disgustingness off of himself and just makes his way to change. The next thing we see is that Laura is putting on her bit of lipstick and makeup. That's a horrible mime of I'm all over the place with this. You can tell I don't put on makeup very often, as I'm just a man that just like if I put on makeup, I'm just be like smearing it all over my face. I'm gonna be like the Joker, where he just like just like that's my makeup, that's my war paint. Anyways, so so Laura's going on and putting up her lipstick. That's my mimery, my miming. And so Martin is to notice that Laura is wearing this dress that he's like, you know what? I would have liked something a little bit different. Hmm? And Laura's like, well, would you have wanted the red? And Martin's like, no, I would have actually liked the black. And Laura's like, well, the black is kind of like backless, like it would be chilly outside. And Martin's just like, and and so Laura goes to the party without thinking of her own self and dresses in what Martin wants because Martin gets what he wants. What a douche. So they go to this party and like the two of them are like looking at one another being like I guess we're here, like we're talking to people, like why do we even have to be at this party? Like, so Laura then turns to Martin during this party and she's like, well, have I been social long enough? And Martin is to say, for a whole season. Like, let's go, let's get out of here. So they make their way back to the home, and Laura asks Martin, it's like, well, are you hungry? And Martin's like, yeah. So Martin ends up putting on his Berlosius or Berlolius, his symphony that is to be on this disc that he just loves to goddamn play. And we then have Laura that is making her way to a bowl of strawberries as Martin comes from behind her, scares her, and then she drops it. And then the two of them start to become intimate. Fast forward to the following morning, where it seems that after their lovemaking of sorts, it seems that the workout wasn't good enough for Martin as he is going on a mountain climber, and he's just like, hey, he's on this stupid mountain climber. And if you don't know what a mountain climber is, it's like this vertical exercise equipment that I really honestly don't see much of anybody actually using to this day. And I was like, you know what? Like, this can go on and actually be like a good exercise. It works the entire body. It works the feet, and like it works like the whole body. And it's also like a mountain climber. So yeah, like rock climbers are really a good exercise and what have you. If you guys don't know. But anyways, we we have Martin that makes his way to the bathroom to wash his hands and notices some towels out of sort. Oh my god, Martin, heaven forbid you just go and straighten these things and tell no one you've done it, but you just feel good that you have gone on and straightened these things. Oh, no, 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 no. That's not Martin. Martin goes on and is to find Laura and be like, come with me. Goes in the bathroom, and Laura has some assumptions that they are being intimate yet again. And Martin's like, "Oh no, that's not what we're here for. No, no, I have to point something out to you. I have to shove this in your face." So Martin goes on to Laura. It's like, "Is everything where it should be, Laura? Is everything neat and tidy like the way I want it to be? Is it?" And Laura's to go on and look around and just be like, "I don't know, because I don't really care." Oh, towels? Oh, let me just straighten these for you. Maybe I'm doing this on freaking purpose because you're an a-hole. And Laura's like, oh, I don't know how I forgot about this. And Martin's like, well, we all forget things. That's why we are to go on and be reminded. So Martin then turns to Laura and is to be asking, like, well, what's for supper? Laura goes on and starts talking about the supper, mentioning how she's making baby peas and potatoes, and eventually making the bread that Martin makes, because I'm sure she has to go on and make specifically food that Martin is to enjoy the most of. So Martin turns to Laura. It's like, I can't hardly wait. But let me go on and wait and find a neighbor of ours and just have a little gab of conversation because I haven't been social enough when going to that party. So I just need to find a neighbor and just have a little gab of something that me and this other guy can relate upon. So Martin goes on and finds a neighbor of his who is on a pier that has a boat, and his name is John. John ends up talking to Martin and stating that at some point he is to, off in the distance, see Laura kind of poking her head out in the window, and John is to state to Martin how Martin is to have a lovely home and a lovely wife, and the two of them are just kind of complimenting one another with like, oh yeah, you have a nice boat and so on and so forth here and what have you. So the dialogue furthers, and so Martin ends up asking this guy about like, man, I would love to sail one day, but coincidentally, my wife Laura, like, she doesn't like to swim. She has a fear of it. Like, it's too bad. And so the guy is to go on and state that he's like, well, hey, I'm taking it out fairly soon. And then Martin's like, all right, well, maybe I'll go on and I'll talk to my wife about this. And they also go on and talk about like their lives and how Martin is a investment counselor and so on and so forth. There's quite a bit of dialogue here where we start to get to know who more Martin is, even though I'm sure we would love to find out more about this D-bag Martin. God, man. But anyways, Martin makes his way back to the home, and here's where things start to really get a little dicey here. So Martin finds out that John is a doctor, and so he makes his way to Laura, and is to see her like straightening these flowers. Be like, well, nice looking doctor, huh? Uh, he says we have a beautiful house, huh? Uh, Martin continues to talk to Laura and states how at some point Laura had gone on to look at him, and maybe he had even been within the house. And Laura's like, no, like, I've never gone on and seen this doctor ever before. And so Martin's like, well, like, John said that you've been staring at him and from the window all day. So eventually, this leads to Martin taking his hand to Laura, and then as Laura is to start to scream and cry, he then tells her to quiet and then kicks her. Well, he tells her to shut up and then he kicks her, or he tells her to stop crying and then kicks her. Regardless, it doesn't really matter. I'm just stating what happens here. And so Martin ends up taking Laura, and it's like, well, now that I've gone on and I've done this and I've hurt you, now you're going to go on and ruin the rest of our day, right? You're going to ruin our supper. You're going to sulk and be upset that I hurt you. Just smell that bread. Just Martin only gives a about Martin. And any little problem, he has to bring the attention to Laura, even though it is so insignificant. And he overblows it. And yeah, so But then Martin goes on to finally apologize, and he's like, "Will you smile?" No, she doesn't want to freaking smile. You hurt her. So here is where Martin goes on and mentions about how the doctor, uh, which Martin calls Laura, or Martin says that, like, oh yeah, your doctor friend, that she knows nothing about. He asked us to go on a sail tonight, just to run along the coast, less than an hour each way. Will you be there, princess? Right by my side. So, Martin takes no consideration that Laura has a fear of swimming and has a fear of the water. Martin doesn't care about that. It's just like, no, you need to be there because I want you to. Honestly, with Martin knowing how much Laura doesn't like the water, Martin could have just said, hey, you know what? I know that you don't like the water, but I really have an itch right now to sail, and I really want to go and try to sail here. And like, you know what? Like, if you want to stay home, that's good. If you want to come with me, you can, but you can just stay home. Like, do whatever you want, and I will just be on the sailboat, and I'll just have a good time. Like, I will give you the option, but Martin doesn't consider that. Martin doesn't consider saying any kind of phrasing of that. It's like, no, 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 no. Like, you need to be at my side, regardless of your actual enjoyment of being on water. Do it for me. So, Martin then is to go on and leave to go into town for some reason and ask Laura if she needs anything. And so, Martin will be right back. I'm sure that we'll just be waiting for this guy to return. So, Laura makes her way to the beach to find um these lights that are to be by the pier here. These uh what is the perfect word here? These light things that are to just keep the beach lit during night, so like people can go on and go down there and be able to not trip and fall and murder themselves. And Laura finds these lights and finds a rock and chucks it at the lights so it breaks some of the bulbs. So eventually she can go on and figure out where to go at night when she has this plan that we'll talk about later. So Martin then comes back with flowers and a present. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry that we quarreled." What a douche. And what he ends up giving Laura as a gift, really? She goes on and she opens up this box, and it is to be this lingerie red assortment. And we have Martin then ask Laura, it's like, well, do you not like it? And Laura's like, oh, no, no, I do. So Martin decides that it's not just good enough that he gave her this gift to use whenever she wants. He wants to see her in it now. So, of course, he ends up undressing her and then replacing what she's wearing now with this red lingerie, this nightgown. And so he goes on to then turn around and start to be intimate with her. And he's like, well, do you think it's too early in the day for this? Of course not for you, Martin. Of course not for you. So the two of them are in the throes of intimacy within this bedroom. all while we are to see Laura's face. And you could see when she's face to face with Martin how she's like enjoying it, but then when he turns away, she's just like, "Oh, whatever, I'm just going through the motions. Like this is just not happy for me. This is just not happiness for me. This is just, what am I doing here? I've been here for 3 years and change. What am I doing with my life?" As Laura makes her way from Martin off of this bed to then just look out through the window, just contemplating her life. So, Martin and Laura are sharing, I would assume, would be their supper. And Martin notices Laura. Just like there's something that's on the tip of her tongue. And Martin's like, "You want something, don't you? Like, I know my princess." You for calling her princess. Just call her Laura. Princess, whatever. You don't treat her like one, so don't call her one. So Laura ends up telling Martin here that Miss Clark called from the library and that Laura wants to go on and wants to work more often at the library. And Martin is just like, "Well, I don't know about that." And Laura is to say, it's like, "Well, like, has your dinners been late ever since I've gone on and I've taken on this job?" And Martin has mentioned, like, "Well, 2 whole days they were late. 2 whole days. Oh wow, 2 days." And come to find out, the reason for that was simply because Laura had left at some point to see her mother, who, via Laura's story, her mother was dying and she needed to go on and see her mother. And so that is the actual reason for that happening. It was 6 months ago. And Martin is to mention how, like, well, I didn't even go to her funeral to pay my own respects. And like that's his problem, that he didn't go to actually see her mother's passing. So but if anything, Martin is like, "Well, like you know how how I worry about you and this and that, and how like she had just kind of snuck off so unexpectedly and didn't really say anything." But yeah, it's like, "Oh well, so she left. Like she came back." So really, the more and more that this conversation is escalating here, we're starting to see that Martin is to possibly see where Laura is going with this. Like, "Oh yeah, you just want another kerfuffle, you want another quarrel, so we can go on and not sail tonight. Like that's where you're heading. Oh, that's not going to happen because we're going to get our sail on. We're going to go and sail because I know that's something that you don't want to do. So we're going to do that." So both Martin and Laura are to get seemingly dressed to go out to sail. And we have Martin who's to remind Laura of their honeymoon and how they had gone on and had uh, Martin here teach Laura how to dance, and then they re-reference that in the later half of this film, or in the towards the tail end of the half. And it was supposedly the happiest day of their whole lives. So having Martin tell Laura, it's like, we will always be together. Nothing can keep us apart. And so having us realize that Martin will do whatever he needs to do to get Laura. If she is to run away from him, if she is to escape from him, there is no escape. And Laura will have an answer for that by the end of this film. She will. So now they are on sailing. They're sailing. So we go on to have at one point where John, I think, had told Martin that the weather was going to be nice. And Martin ends up reminding John about this, like, hey, I thought you thought that the weather was going to be fine. And John is like, well, yeah, this is just like a weird freak thing. And so all of a sudden, while they are starting to sail, and John is to tell Martin and Laura, that's like, well, yeah, we're almost home. We're going to get clear out of this. And all of a sudden, one of the ropes start to unwind here, and then the sail starts to go cattywampus, goes freaking all over the place. So while John and while Martin are scrambling to get this sail corrected, we all of a sudden go on to then have Martin turn back to then even almost falling off the boat and getting back onto it. By the time that he returns back to where Laura was sitting, he realizes that she is missing. And so he goes on to scream out Laura's name, Laura, Laura. And he just loves doing some Laura screaming, it seems. And John is to have to remind Martin how, like, hey man, be careful. Like you're really just kind of rocking back the boat here. So there seems to be the Coast Guard that ends up getting involved here. And Martin is wanting the Coast Guard to spare no expense. Like, hey, let's get another boat out here. Let's get a helicopter. Let's get everything that we can to find Laura. And Martin ends up finding one of the Coast Guards have Laura's life vest, having Martin assume that Laura is gone. So Martin goes on within the home to find this one statue of a head. He grabs it and he chucks it. He's upset. Gets out of his home, screams again, Laura. So we then fast track some time here, and Martin is to make a funeral for Laura and have a grave for her, but of course there is no body there. So now we go on and find out what had happened to Laura, how she escaped, how she survived. Laura had gone on to find a buoy, and she had hung on to this. And then we also come to find that Laura knows how to swim. Laura had gone on to some like YMCA. I think it's a different acronym, but it's kind of like that. She goes to some place and learns how to swim. And she goes on to have a number of people who are cheering for her at this swimming place and befriending her within this environment to then have Laura become really good at swimming. So Laura is to realize that she was going to only have one moment to escape. She was only going to have one moment to survive. And she had found the broken lights that she had hit with a rock before to guide her back home so she could go on and find her hidden assortment of bag that had money in it, that had shoes, that had exchange of clothes and this and that. So she can go on and cut her hair, take her wedding ring, throw it in the toilet, and not flush it, of course. Or maybe she did flush it and then it just didn't properly flush. And make her way onto a bus to get the F out of here. Laura had also gone on and found a wig. And so here is where Laura becomes Sarah. So Sarah goes on to be on this bus, and she is to be on it for so long that she falls asleep. She falls asleep on some guy's shoulder. He ends up waking her up with a good morning. Sarah, via continuing to find random person to person upon this bus, ends up finding a woman that is willing to give her a green apple. Hey, do you like a green apple? Yeah, of course I do. So Sarah then goes on to tell her story to the stranger about her going on to meet and visit with a woman who had had a terrible relationship with a man and finally had had enough and finally had left him. And so she's going on and telling this whole story, as well as also mentioning about her mother and how she's in a nursing home and she's blind, and that her mother at one point had also had a stroke. And so, like, that's where Sarah is honestly headed to see her mother again in Iowa, because that's where Sarah had taken her mother instead of to a death, had taken her to escape away from Martin, so that way they can both escape together, her and her mother. Uh, so, yeah, so for how I was to go on and say that the mother had died in the early part of the movie, that is to all be a ruse. Laura was to collect her mother so that way they can find a alternate place for the two of them to be happy and see one another. But it takes some time for Sarah to meet up with her mother because she's not quite sure if it's safe enough. But anyways, so the mother is actually alive. If I've said that enough. Anyways, so but Sarah ends up going on to tell this stranger her story about how she'd gone on to see this friend of hers that had left this guy, but really, by the way that this girl was talking, it's like, well, like, so when did you leave him? Like, knowing that it's like you're really talking about yourself, but like, so, but also like trying to like really help us understand that, like, what if she would have just gone on and called the police? What if she would have gone on and done this? Why hasn't she left him sooner? And like Sarah is to go on and state that it's like, well, yeah, she even did call the police at one time and a lawyer also, and she could have filed a restraining order. She could have tried all these things, but Martin would not have gone on and not like still like none of that would have worked. None of that would have saved uh, Laura away from this Martin guy. So if anything, this woman is just to kind of confirm to Sarah, like, that like she wasn't a coward in doing what she was doing, which was just to have her last option just be escape at this point. That she is a strong-willed woman, and like this is the right thing that she's doing. Like this is a mistake. She shouldn't be second guessing herself at any point of what she's doing. That she's doing the right thing. And so she had gone on and stayed with Martin for 3 years, 7 months, 6 days. Far too long, in her opinion. So she makes her way to Iowa, where there is a police officer that's going on and putting a flag on a flagpole. Two kids slapping their feet onto a water fountain. So Sarah Waters makes her way to this home that ends up being for rent, and Iris Nepper is to show her through the home. Which, oddly enough, it seems that somehow Laura or Sarah is to have like $700 to just be able to pay for this home. So I'm like, man, like, how is it that she just has this money just lying around? So, besides her working at that library job, which we'd probably have to say, like, she's probably been stacking away money, and maybe also who knows what else, to get away. So, Sarah goes on to dust up this house as it is fairly dusty, grabbing a bunch of like sheets that are just and dust flies off of them. Going through and uncobwebbing up the flight of stairs, repainting the house, so on, so forth. Replants or putting plants all over the house. Uh, Sitting upon this bench swing and eventually going on to take a shower after a long, arduous day of doing all this cleaning and looking at her towels and just tossing them all around because she's like, yay, I have to live a life free of having to make sure everything is nice and neat and clean. I can just do whatever the F I want and just blah, blah, blah. And she just felt so relieved on that, or had a thing of relief about that. So Sarah, now going through her house, is to all of a sudden notice a bit of singing going on in the background of her neighbor's home. And here's where she goes on and is to, in a bizarre way, meet a guy named Ben from a distance. Ben is going on and watering his plants and trees and whatever the heck else because he has an apple tree. And he is to be singing the West Side Story song, Jet uh, uh, when you're a jet all the way to da 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 da. Yeah, that song. And Sarah is to be so entertained by this, she is to be captivated by it, that she is to be watching this guy, and then all of a sudden he's to be like, he notices that she notices, and so he is to just start whistling away, as Laura is to be like, oh yeah, I should probably get away from here and just be, see you later. This is awkward. So we have Martin making his way through the beachy area as he is to go on and find these light poles that have these lights on them. That's probably what I should have said earlier. Poles that have lights on them. However, wordages of technical endeavors of which that I should have gone on and stated at some point earlier in this review. My bad. So, Martin makes his way through this beach and is to cut his foot on some light bulb glass. So that is freaking hole number one that Martin is to investigate and figure out, all right, well, why were these light bulbs broken? Then, of course, we go on back with Sarah, and she is looking through her cupboards of sorts, and she is messing them up because she's like, like, I don't want my cupboards nice and neat. So Sarah makes her way looking out the window to notice that there is some very nice apples outside, reminding her of that bus ride and reminding her of like, yeah, I'm still doing something right here. And these apples are just a reminder of that. Just the almost like the weird symbolism that is kind of carrying this character with just a green apple. It's very weird, but like that's what I'm just thinking in my mind here. So Sarah's to go on and do a bit of a robbery here with some green apples and is to start pulling them off this tree that isn't hers. It's Ben's. So in the end, Ben is to be talking to Sarah, realizing that she's stealing these apples. So he's like, "Oh, harvest time, huh? You know, people get arrested for stealing in this town, right?" Oh, they were just on the ground and they were damaged and bruised. Yeah, I'm sure they were. I can look at this apple here and see that it isn't bruised. So, Sarah does go on and admit it's like, well, yeah, not all of them were bruised. Okay, sure. And Ben is like, well, you know, it is unlawful to trespass, you know. And she's like, it's just a few apples I'm going to make a pie for. And Ben is like, oh, well, you don't say, huh? All right, well, like, maybe we can make a deal here. I like pie. And so Laura ends up taking all the apples that are within her bit of clothing and she drops all of them. And she's like, I don't make deals with strangers. I don't make deals with guys like you. So she drops the apples and runs off. And Ben is like, you know what? I think we've gotten to a little bit of misunderstanding. Like, I was just making jokes. I was just making yucks. Like, you forgot these. You forgot these apples. I'll let you have them. Like, so but if any, yeah, Ben is like, it would be a shame to just see these apples just falling on the ground and rotting. So here you go, take them, do something with them if you'd like. So I didn't mean to scare you. So Ben goes on and is to give Laura these apples, and they put them all over the table, and then we introduce one another, like, oh hey, yeah, I'm Ben, I'm Sarah. So And so Ben goes on and states, like, well, yeah, like, I noticed that you caught me, like, singing before. If I would have noticed that someone would have been in this home, maybe I would have prepared a little bit more. And the two of them go on and state that, like, they know that play and they enjoyed it and liked it. And Laura had gone to see it when she was a little girl. And Ben is to say, well, yeah, like I ended up doing a production of it, and so like it just kind of just it just popped in there. So we start to have Ben start to ask Sarah questions, and the more questions that Ben asks, the more he's not really getting answers, and so instead Sarah's like, well, that's a lot of questions you're asking me, and Ben's like, well, it's only two, and so Ben is like, well, you know what, like I'm free tomorrow night. Like, I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna make some pot roast. You can show up, you can not show up, you can make a pie, you can not make a pie. Like, let's just do this. Like, if you don't come, like, I won't be heartbroken, but hey, 8 o'clock, right? So, Ben leaves, and so Martin ends up getting a phone call from his office. Very unusual, very strange, this phone call. It's a person that doesn't quite know his wife right, but like it seems that this person knows who they're talking about. So Martin ends up getting his assistant to let him know that there's a phone call, and it's a person that knows Martin's wife. It's like, okay, put her through. Uh, this ends up being a woman whose name is Vanessa, and it seems that she had heard about Laura and that she wanted to call Martin with her respects. And to go on and state that they want to say how much that that Vanessa is to say how she misses Laura, and we have Martin who asks this woman, it's like, well, how is it that you know her from like the library, right? No, I know her from the YWCA. I'm sorry, but my wife never went to the YWCA. You must be confused. No, 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 no. Your wife had swam here on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays at 8 a.m. Look, there obviously must be some kind of mistake. My wife drowned. She doesn't swim. Well, at first she couldn't swim, but she got to be good at a better swimmer. That is what Vanessa is to tell Martin here. And Martin is like, well, you must be confused. This has to be the wrong woman. This. And so Vanessa is like, well, this is just odd. We have at one point where this woman is to state that it's like, well, yeah, like we had swam with her, and that it seems that Laura had gone on to supposedly say that she had been a gymnast because she had gotten so many bruises. And then that's where Martin's like, aha, bruises. That's my wife. What the like, bruising could just be like, oh yeah, that's my wife. What kind of garbage is that? So that's where Martin is like, aha, there's some truth here. So Martin makes his way home, is to rifle through Laura's things, her personal records, and then is to be like, just like flinging throughout his entire home. He's rifling through everything that is to go on be Laura's, finding this little like makeup bag, and he goes through and he pokes his finger. He's like, oh, I hurt my pinky. I have a boo boo. So Martin is to go on and find that he's trickling with blood. So he makes his way to the toilet to dribble a little blood, to then go on and find that the wedding ring of Laura's is at the toilet. So Martin is to go on and save this ring from the toilet, and who knows how often he had taken a dump at this toilet without even realizing that the wedding ring was there, or peeing, or whatever. For how long has this wedding ring been there and he never noticed it until now? This makes no sense. Was this just some secondary toilet that he never went to? How dumb is this guy that he didn't notice this until now? And how is it that he hasn't taken a dump in this toilet until now? This makes no sense. Or have been around this said toilet until now. Conveniency of story, I beg to further deliver upon my eyes. So, as Sarah is to make her way to Ben's home, as it seems that he is going on and trying to burn it down. And I don't mean in a just cool, like, he's burning it down, yeah. Like, this house is so cool. No, he's literally going on and overcooking this pot roast to where he is going on and having to tell Sarah here, it's like, well, I hope you like your pot roast. Well done. Because he is flaming on this mother. And so Sarah ends knocking on the door. It's like, fire department. So we have Ben that is looking at Laura here. It's like, oh, is this the apple pie? It's like, would it be anything else? Maybe I'm going to poison you. So that way I would just stop hanging out with you. Man, would that just be a shift in the story. Give us more suspense of this story that doesn't need it. So Ben ends up turning to Laura here. It's like, well, hey, like, since you've gone into my house and I've kind of almost burned it down already, like, can I get you anything? Some eye drops, a gas mask. Uh, so we have Ben that is to go on and ask Laura, like, well, hey, do you want any music playing in the background? I always like the classics. And here is where Sarah goes on and tells Ben, it's like, well, I'll take anything except for um, Berliozia's, which of course would be the song that was playing early on in this movie, because of course it ends up giving Laura the creeps or gives her the chills. So Ben is to be like, oh, okay, I'll keep that in mind. Thanks for the tip. So we have Ben that is like, well, like, it's honestly a very small town, and considering I don't know much about you because it seems like you're not giving me anything, I talked around town and it seems like you're in need of a job. And so Ben ends up asking Sarah, it's like, well, hey, do you have like some references? Do you have like a transcript? Do you have a driver's license? Do you have anything that has your name on it? And Sarah's like, yeah, about that. And Ben is like, oh, okay, well, do you have a name then? And so she's like, well, I have that. And he's like, okay, I guess that's good enough. So we go on to have Martin make his way to Laura's mother's last location and is to go on and ask this woman about what had happened and had stated that, like, well, Laura's mother had died. And so the woman who is talking to Martin is like, oh, so Laura's mother died after her? And Martin is like, no, 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 no. Like, Laura's mother had died well before her. And the woman is like, no. Like, she was going on and she had gotten picked up by Laura because supposedly Laura was going to take care of her mother at your home, at your residence. That's what Laura said. And Martin's like, oh, that's smart, smart gal. She didn't go on and say where she was going. Clever. So Martin is to now turn around and find this private investigator and now say it's like, well, hey, I want you to find Chloe, Laura's mother, and track her down. And I'll give you a big fat grand prize if you find this woman. Because, like, that will get Martin to find Sarah, aka Laura, if she finds Chloe, Laura's mother. So we now go into Ben just kind of checking on Sarah because it seems that the job that she had gone on and gotten, like, it seems like it's working out. It's like, all right, cool. So now here is where Ben is to be quite honest with Sarah. It's like, well, you know what? Like, I had gone on and seen you at some local Walgreens or some local retail store, and you know what? I called out your name, Sarah, and you didn't answer. Like, it doesn't really seem that that's your actual name is Sarah. So what's the story behind that? So because she didn't blink, she didn't respond to this name being called out to her. So here is where Sarah goes on and states that, like, well, yeah, my name really isn't Sarah Waters. And and she starts to go on, and so like Ben is to be like, you know what, I really do like you, but like I don't even know who you are. And so like Laura's like, well, like people don't really ever really know one another, Ben. And it's uh so Ben is like, well, hey, just give it a chance, just give us a chance. And Laura's like, well, I can't, I'm sorry. And he's like, what are you so afraid of? And Laura turns to Ben and is like, what is it with men? Like, and Ben is like, don't be that way. And so Ben is like, well, I just gotta know. Like, I just need to know. And it's like, we're either gonna be honest with each other or we're just gonna stop right here. Like, so, and so Laura turns to Ben and it's like, well, it never started. So Laura goes on to the last person that she really feels that she is to love, and that is her mother, to just get on the phone with her but never actually respond to her. So Sarah tries to make this phone call and tries to call her mother, and then when her mother gets on the phone, Sarah tells her mother from a distance of the phone how much she loves her, and every bit of everything that she wants to get off her chest, and tells her that she misses her and she'll be there soon. And so Sarah's mother is consistently talking to a person on the line and saying that like there's no one here, like I guess we're gonna have to hang up soon, because Sarah isn't actually talking, she's just kind of having the phone by her. And so we now have this parade. I've kind of skipped past the moment because I've already talked about it earlier. So now we have this parade, and Ben on his shoulders has this kid that is having this cotton candy. And while Ben is making his way through this parade, he all of a sudden notices Sarah, and so he gives up this kid to obviously these parents nearby, and then makes his way to Sarah. And so Ben wants to go on and apologize to Sarah about earlier. It's like, well, hey, maybe we can just go on and we can just forget it and just start all over again. And because the two of them like really have some chemistry here. So Ben talks about the Heartland, about how he had gone on uh and at one point he had been at New York for a couple years and tried to be an actor, but that just didn't work out. Like he like had a just kind of a close call, but it never really happened for him. So since he realized that he was nothing more than just a failure, he decided to come back on home. So, but the more and more that he realizes that like he coming back wasn't exactly like the dumbest thing that he'd ever gone and done in his life. And so we eventually start to have Sarah bring her walls down, and she mentions about how like the real reason why she had come to this place is to see her mother, and that her mother had had a stroke 3 years ago, and that Sarah had sent her mother to get the best care. And And so Ben asks Sarah, it's like, well, how is she? And Laura's like, well, I don't really know. Like, I haven't really gone to see her yet, but I haven't gone on to see her because I don't think right now it's really all that safe. And Ben is like, huh? All right, okay. So Chloe, Sarah's mother, is at this hospital and she is knitting with these knitting needles. And as she drops one of the needles onto the ground, Martin is to appear out in the darkness, saying absolutely nothing to Chloe. I'm like, aha, like, all right, I found her. I found Chloe. I found Sarah's, or in Martin's case, Laura's mother. So Sarah makes her way back home, and there is a knock on the door that scares the crap out of Sarah. And then she answers it, and Ben is like, "Oh, did I scare you? Like, I'm sorry." Like, and Sarah's like, "Well, I'm just a little on the edge." And so he's like, "Well, hey, can you just come up? Can you just come with me?" Like, and she's like, "Okay, come with me where?" That's where Ben takes Laura to this theater, to this stage, and is to turn on these lights, is to turn on the swing, and is to turn on the snow and all of these stars and these lights. And it's a wonderland for Sarah here. She goes into the back of the stage to toss on all these costumes and all these hats and start to pretend to be all of these people. And the two of them start to go on as Ben is juggling and what have you. They start to have fun and like they just get into just childish natures. And Ben ends up putting on this cassette uh, record thing and cassette tapes. You guys remember cassette tapes because you probably are far too young or far too old and fartly. I'm saying fartly too much. Anyways, so Ben and Sarah start to dance here, and Sarah starts to laugh. The further and further they start to dance, like Ben is like really like they're going on and like they're grabbing one another and they're kind of just swinging around in circles. Like Ben is going on and doing like all these moves to really just kind of jostle um just Sarah around here, and it's all in fun. It's all in just like childish goofiness and what have you. So as Sarah's house door is to open, we see her going like flying in as Ben has kind of like been probably dancing with her all the way there. And so both Ben and Sarah, because they had such a good time, they're kissing one another. Eventually this leads to them just making out by the stairwell. And as Ben is to start making his way down Sarah's body, Sarah stops. Sarah just wants Ben just to stop. And Ben turns to Sarah. It's like, what did he do to you? Like, like, so the more and more Ben is trying to understand, the more that Sarah is pushing away and just saying for him to please go. So he immediately goes on and does so. To where later, here is where Sarah finally opens up to tell Ben because she has feelings for him. It's obvious. And so the two of them are on this swinging bench together, and she is to go on and say, I had a husband and he hurt me, and I guess I'm just really afraid. And she's afraid of never getting her life back together. And Ben is to go on and be like, well, hey, maybe like maybe you're gonna go on and just like surprise yourself. And 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 so Ben, of course, is to be reminded that Laura, or Sarah, wanted to go on and see her mother again, but again, it's not safe. So Ben goes on and is to put makeup and prosthetics on on Sarah here, giving her a mustache, giving her a wig, letting her go freely to see her mother. So we have Sarah that goes on to sign in to see her mother, and then goes on and does so. And as Sarah is to see her mother, Chloe is to go on and start trying to feel uh of course Sarah's face, and then realizes that it's like, well, why do you have this here, like why do you have this hair? And Sarah has to confess, like, well, yeah, I'm wearing a mustache, like I'm wearing a wig. And so because Ben is to go on and ask Sarah if you think that your mother will recognize you, and Sarah's like, well, yeah, she's definitely going to go on to recognize me, even though she's blind. So, because Sarah comes in and starts singing this Mockingbird song, and immediately Chloe perks up. So, the two of them are starting to talk here, and Sarah admits that she had left Martin, and admitted that the life of her and Martin had become too terrible that she needed to escape. And that Sarah feels that she's going to be fine now, and that at some point in this conversation that she had met another guy named Ben who works at the drama department, which will eventually be a way that Martin finds Sarah and gets to her. So, but also Sarah here mentions to Chloe that she had gotten a job. She had gotten a job, and that she also has a friend, and so on and so forth. So, uh, right after that, as Sarah is to get everything off of her chest to talk to her mom about, she then leaves as Martin makes her way in to this uh, into this hospital, into this nursing home, and is to go on and talk to some of the nurses as he is to gift for the drinking fountain, and go on and say that there was a part of my family that was fairly estranged, but they go on and they see this woman from time to time is like, hey, if you go on and notice anybody making their way here, like give me a call, and like I'll find out that this person is to be here so I can see them and talk to them, even though they're estranged. And she's talking to one of the nurses, but then eventually, as Martin leaves or starts to leave, she then goes on to find one of the other nurses telling him, it's like, oh yeah, uh like someone had gone on and signed in here, and it had been a man instead of a woman. So, and coincidentally, that had been Sarah, who, when going and getting something for Chloe, had just missed Martin, who opened the door and didn't realize anyone was there but Chloe. So, but Martin almost like is to be so gosh darn close to Sarah in this water fountain, and he ends up getting like sprinkled and hit with a bit of water in this water fountain. It was kind of funny. And so once he finds out that Sarah had left, he races out to find that she is no longer there. And so now Sarah is to seemingly take down her wig in disguise and make her way back to Ben and mention how perfect it was that she was to see her mother, that she looked so beautiful, and no one suspected a thing. She felt so safe, and I was like, okay, good. So we then have Martin that makes his way to Chloe to find out what Sarah had told her. But he comes in with an accent, and he is to mention that he is a detective and that he's a police officer, and he is to try and go on and serve Chloe. Hey, would you like some steak? Would you like some carrots? So Martin is to go on with an accent and try and be able to get any information from Chloe about Sarah's whereabouts, which leads to Chloe stating how uh, Sarah is to be with a drama teacher, and he works at a college in Cedar Falls. So Martin gets the answer that he wants. So he is to start to grab this pillow, and you're thinking that he's gonna like, oh, so he's gonna kill her now because he's gotten the information. And instead, as this nurse comes in, he puts the pillow behind her head and is to go on and be like, oh, don't worry, like I'll take good care of of your uh, your daughter. So Martin makes his way to a teacher and gets behind gets in the back seat of this guy's car and holds a gun to him, and it's like, oh well, yeah, you know my wife, you know Laura, you know this, and the guy's like, what are you talking about? So it's like, well, you're a teacher here that teaches drama, and the teacher is like, well, like, dude, that's like a dozen of us, like you got the wrong guy, like if anything, like I'm with a man, like I know nothing about your woman, I know nothing about your wife. So Martin, realizing that he has gotten the wrong guy, smacks the guy with the back of the head with a gun, and then prattles on to try and find the next guy who is maybe more fit the bill better. And Martin kind of slowly but surely like investigates more and looks into this more. So Ben is going on and seeing these two people practice this play. And when he is going on and dissecting afterwards what they are saying to one another, it's like, well, like this story is more than what you guys are saying it is. Like this guy is to be haunted by this woman, and so he starts to exaggerate and elaborate more and more about this story to help them understand like what real impact this story really has, because it's more than just saying the lines when you go into an acting class. It's more about like figuring out like what the character's needs and wants and whatever are. Yeah, it is really hard to like memorize all those lines and need to say them all, and sometimes you end up getting confused and forget one line, and then you realize you afterwards forgot one line, and then you're just like, oh crap, like I messed that up, I messed that scene up, I know I did, because I had forgotten one what somewhere, I forgot one somewhere, because that happens from time to time, because like sometimes you're trying to think of like what all you're doing in the scene, and also you're thinking of the lines in this, and you're gonna f something up, you really are. um and then also you're probably not going to be really present in the scene. You're probably just going to go on and be thinking of the lines. You're going to be thinking of like what you're going to do in scene to just because I've done acting classes, I have, where I've gone on and I've kind of like I took a scene where I'm just kind of cleaning a thing of boots, and I'm just kind of saying these lines to another person, and technically I'm present in the scene because I'm kind of doing something, but I'm probably not present to the other person. I'm just kind of doing what I'm doing, and I'm just kind of reacting to what this person is saying. But like really I didn't think about like the other person in the room, like how I can go on and connect with that other person. I was just thinking about what I'm doing and how I can like make the best performance out of this instead of going on and logically like what can me and this other person be doing, because technically we're in this scene together. But it's really hard to do that in an acting class. um it just is, because you're really just thinking of yourself and you're just really thinking about your lines you have to learn and hope that the other one doesn't butcher the crap out of it at some points and give you like cues so you can bounce off them, and then you ev up because you will. Anyways, but anyway, yeah. So, but after that, Martin is going on and listening to what Ben has to say here and talking about have you ever loved someone that much? And uh, that no matter what I write, it's dry and it's hard and it's dark. And then he's living in a dungeon, all this and that. So Ben makes it after this class, and Martin is to follow him to this amusement park. Whatever this is to be, whether it's a state fair or whether it's just some kind of weird, goofy thing that they're just doing for maybe some holiday or something. I don't know what this is, but it's some amusement park. So, considering this is Iowa, I can't really connect anything for it to be nothing more than probably just a weird, goofy place that is to have some kind of amusement park for some reason. It doesn't make sense. I'm gonna have to figure this out and put the pieces of the puzzle together. Like, why is this amusement park happening? Even though it doesn't matter, it's just a visual thing. So Martin is following Ben to come to find that Ben is going to meet up with Sarah here. The two of them are having a laugh, and Martin is like, "Aha! Like I see her. Like I figured this out." So Martin does not go on and so quickly does he run to Sarah and ruin all this. No, he just continues to lurk in the shadows. Seeing both Ben and Laura go onto this Ferris wheel and go on and on and on with the Ferris wheel, and the two of them kiss, and so he's like, oh, so they're together. All right. So, luckily, I knew what a Ferris wheel was because a lot of times I can't think of that name because heaven forbid it's in so many movies that I've seen, but I always want to call it a tilt-a-whirl or a merry-go-round or some other goofy thing because I never remember the name of this. So rationally, I hate going on and always going through these movies, and they always have the exact same Ferris wheel thing that I never remember the name of it is. But whatever. Or maybe I call it a carousel or something. I don't know. But anyways, so after Martin is to just be just eye effing these two people, he's like, yeah, like I finally got what I want. Laura and Ben, or Martin, or Sarah and Ben, make their way back to Sarah's home, and so Sarah's telling Ben, it's like, well, hey, just give me 20 minutes and I'll freshen up. She's gonna go into the tub, and so since I guess they had won some kind of teddy bear at this amusement park, Ben is saying like, well, hey, leave your friend at home. You're just kind of having a good, fun time here. So as Sarah makes her way through their house, or through her house, as she is to be in the tub, she all of a sudden notices that her towels are straightened. She's like, oh, what's going on? So Sarah starts to go on and starts to make her way through her house to investigate, and starts to look into her closet to see if Martin's going to pop up in there. But then all of a sudden she goes into her kitchen and she realizes that the towels are disordered and that the cupboard is disordered. So she's like, oh, maybe what I was thinking was not the worst. So there all of a sudden is to be this window that's to be opened that Sarah closes. And all of a sudden she's to be scared. And it ends up being Ben. And Ben is like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, are you okay? Like I was just to see if like you were ready. Like, are you all set? Like, so. But Sarah ends up saying it's like, well, I guess I'm just trying to say goodbye to old ghosts. Is the reason why I'm just so jumpy right now. And Ben is just telling Laura, it's like, well, hey, or Sarah, like, come on, just get dressed. So the two of them are having seemingly a picnic together, and the two of them are to go on and have a really good time. And so as the two of them, just like Sarah kind of makes her way back into her place, Ben says like, well, hey, are we gonna meet tomorrow? And so Sarah's like, well, yeah, tomorrow, sure. So Sarah makes her way back into her home to then put on some music, and it coincidentally ends up being the song that gives her chills. And at first, that freaks Sarah out, but then she realizes, oh, Ben, like, you joker, you. And she thinks nothing of it. So all of a sudden, the tub is overflowing with water, and Sarah's like, okay, what the heck is going on here? So Sarah is to see a door slightly open. She looks upon it, and then it's to start to realize that something is going cattywampus in her home, as the bit of bread that she had to put in the toaster, it seems, is to be starting to overcook. It's starting to overburn. So Sarah makes her way to this fire alarm, and starts taking uh, this broom and starts to wave at it to try and stop the fire alarm from going off. But then all of a sudden, Sarah notices that her towels are straightened, that her cupboard is straightened, and Sarah is starting to cry. She realizes what's going on, that someone has intruded upon her home. And as the boombox or stereo is to have made its way to her front door, and Sarah meets it there, she is to be greeted by, hello, princess. It's wonderful to see you again. Alive, it seems. So, it's been so long since our first touch. Have you been thinking of it too? I'm sure you have. So, all of a sudden, there is to be a knock at the door, and it ends up being Ben. Coincidentally, it's roughly about midnight. Ben wants to go on and just be with Sarah. He couldn't wait. So, Sarah needs to go to the door, and Martin is telling Sarah, it's like, I will kill him. Get him to go away. Like, you hear me? Like, get rid of him. So, Sarah goes to the door, and Ben is talking. It's like, well, hey, it is technically tomorrow. It's 12:05. I couldn't wait. And Sarah's like, well, you know what? Like, I'm sorry, but I'm just so tired. Like, so spooked by old ghosts again, huh? So we have Sarah that states that they're all around me. And so Ben is like, well, how about I come in? And Sarah's like, oh, no, no, no. Like, it's really not a good time. Ben feels that something's up because Sarah is pulling away. And Sarah really hasn't been doing that with Ben. So he knows something wrong. He knows something's wrong. He feels it. Like he has a thing in his gut that's like there's something wrong here. Something about what she said. Something about how she's saying it. So but the two of them say goodnight. And Sarah closes the door. And so Martin turns to Sarah. It's like, well, he doesn't matter. He's nothing, Laura. He's nothing. And all of a sudden, Ben comes breaking through the door, trying to just rustle Martin. And we're just thinking, like, Ben, do not get killed here. Do not get killed. So they're rustling to the ground. Martin outpowers Ben. Ben tells Martin, F you. And Martin takes him down. Martin then turns to Sarah. It's like, what is his name? Says that it's Ben. I thought he meant nothing. I thought he was nothing. Why did he have to learn his name? Why did he have to know his name? So, but again, here's where Martin says, like, he doesn't have anything to do with us. Does he, Princess? And Sarah answers no, because she has to answer no. And so here's where Martin goes on and reflects. Remember our honeymoon? Remember when I taught you how to dance? Of course you haven't forgotten, right? You said those were the happiest days of your whole life. Remember this? So Martin then is to show, and we see it here, the wedding ring. This is yours, Laura. We are one. We will always be one. Nothing can keep us apart. Here is where Sarah nutshots Martin, takes him frickin' down. The gun falls. Sarah is running for the gun. And so Martin is looking at Sarah and he's like, wow, I am impressed. So in between both Sarah and Martin, there is a phone. And so we go on to have Martin say to Sarah, it's like, well, hey, there is a telephone there. You could call the police. I know your every thought, Laura. You're wondering if they can protect you. Who knows? They may issue an order instructing me to stay away from my wife. My wife? Nothing can keep me away from you. Nothing. I love you, Laura. I can't live without you. And I won't let you live without me. So, Laura gets up the phone, makes a phone call. And Martin's like, think carefully, Laura. Think carefully. Oh, yeah, I'm sure she will. She'll definitely think very carefully of this phone call that she's going to make. So, Laura ends up picking up the phone and is to tell the police, it's like, well, police, yes, you need to hurry. I just killed an intruder. And it's like, whoa, yeah! Sarah hangs up the phone and fires away at her husband, just blasts, or her ex-husband, because technically once Sarah is dead, ex-husband, blasts away at this man. And so he falls over. And Sarah thinks that it is done. That she has killed this man. And all of a sudden, Martin is to take the gun back from the ground, is to hold it up to Sarah with holding her hair in the air, to think that he is going to be like, well, if you do me in, I'm going to do you in also. But as Martin fires the gun, there is no bullets left. Oh, no bullets! Oh, too bad, Martin. Oh, too bad for you. You're dead. And so Martin realizes that there is no more bullets. He drops to the ground and dies. So Sarah, not giving a single F about Martin, makes her way to Ben and is to try to wake him up to see if he is okay. The two of them hug. Frickin' Martin is to have such a close grasp to Sarah's wedding ring. And that's how this movie ends. So I'm going to get the heck out of here, realizing how long this movie is. And I'm sure also how long I talked. And then also how I just repeated everything that this movie was to have taken in place. But there's sometimes where I just want to just reread stuff. And I just want to just the impacts that some of these words have, and also just my twists and my turns about how I want to go on and state them. I just find that entertaining to me, as well as also uh, just trying to go on and try to put out a decent, interesting video, I guess. But then again, it is what it is. So I'm gonna get that out of here. Hopefully, I can go on and maybe put this out there at a reasonable time now, instead of going on and it's been really hard. I do a video and then I get so freaking tired that I just I don't put it out because I'm just like, I need to sleep. I need to do something. Um, and then I'm able to put a video out and then I'm like, okay, good. At least I put something out for today. At least I'm trying to be consistent. So here's hoping that I'm just consistently just putting these videos out, and whatever they do, doesn't matter to me because I'm still feeling happy about the successes of other things. So I'm really at this point at sometimes just kind of doing certain reviews just for me, finally, instead of feeling that I have to go on and do reviews um, because I need to, because I have to uh, like sometimes, yeah, do things that are to be purposely done, and then there's some things that are just I wanted to have this to be on the channel just because I thought that this was worthy enough for me to talk about, or I always wanted to get to a point where I talked about this film, and so here it is. So, with that said, I'm gonna get the heck out of here. Thank you for going on and listening or watching or whatever this. However you were to go about your day and do any of these, even if it's one whole second, it's still a view, it seems. So I say that, and I know a lot of people irk the crap out of themselves by hearing that kind of crap because, oh yeah, well I watched X number of minutes of this, and you're continuing to talk about the seconds of viewing. Yeah, because it all counts. It seems it all counts. It all helps the channel somehow, but um, logically, it's also that people probably don't want to go on and actually watch these videos, which is just uh, I put out so much variety of different comment I can or content I can understand, but man, I'm trying to put my best foot forward now. There's a lot of times where there's what am I doing in this channel? And there are also recent times where probably people have that same kind of concern. But I hope people are going to go on and understand why I'm putting certain at least projects out beyond just the assumption of oh yeah, he's doing this one when he probably doesn't really like this movie or show or whatever, and that's probably the truth. Um, and there's some where it's oh yeah, I can definitely tell that he probably really did enjoy this one, and it's not just just well, hey, look at the work I did. Yeah, who cares about that? It's just uh, it doesn't matter how hard I work. It's just that I keep doing this consistently. So with that, so I'm gonna get the heck out of here before I put my foot more in my mouth. So without a doubt, goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.